Hey there everyone, Video Game Cabinet here, and tonight we are back with a review of A Way Out for PlayStation 4. A Way Out is a two-player co-op game that released in 2018 by Hazel Light Studios, who later developed the 2021 classic It Takes Two. My wife and I loved It Takes Two when we played it a few years ago, so we decided to run through the developer's previous effort this week. A Way Out's otherwise generic gameplay elements and cliched storyline are indeed enhanced by the co-op play, making for an amusing adventure that is greatly overshadowed by what Hazel Light later produced. A Way Out tells the tale of two inmates, Vincent and Leo, escaping from prison in order to exact revenge on a bad man known as Harvey, who is responsible for landing them there. The first third of the game is all about planning and executing your escape, with tons of scenes that mimic all your favorite prison movies, especially The Shawshank Redemption. Much of the gameplay revolves around stealth, quick-time events, and sometimes performing menial labor. Once you escape, the variety opens up a little more in the outdoors with some driving segments and gunplay. Vincent and Leo continue their pursuit of Harvey while on the lam from the police. Most of the enjoyment my wife and I had in A Way Out was communicating with each other about what we were going to do next, as well as solve the environmental puzzles sprinkled throughout. The final act of the game devolves into much of the same duck and cover shooting that we have seen in so many action games since Gears of War, but it's still decent fun with a friend playing split screen with you. After cribbing from every prison movie you have ever seen, the narrative copies every crime caper movie you have ever seen in the second and third acts. The showdown with Harvey at the end is straight out of the ending of Scarface. And after that comes a really cheesy plot twist that we have seen in countless cop gangster movies. I feel like the story's dark tone would have worked a lot better if it had more humor and didn't take itself so seriously. Having said all that, I still liked playing A Way Out as a two-player co-op endeavor. It may not have made a very good movie, but interacting with that movie in the company of a friend and experiencing the scenarios together does indeed elevate the campaign's entertainment value a bit. I rate A Way Out a 6 out of 10. It's not a long playthrough, so it makes for a passable way for you and a friend to play video games together. And that is my review. Yeah, the plot in this one was super generic and super cliche, and it's rather dark in tone and takes itself pretty seriously, which, it's like every other crime and every other prison movie you've seen in the beginning, and then every other crime caper movie you've seen in the second and third act. It just felt a little too serious for me, and it was very cliche, and the plot twist at the end is it's like, oh my God, we've seen that so many times. I think it would have been a lot better if it was more comedic and lighthearted. But I still had fun with my wife going through the scenarios, playing through it and experiencing it with a friend side by side split screen does add, a good amount to the game. Honestly, I probably would have given this maybe like a 5 if it was just a single player game. It's not bad, but it's very generic and average. But with the two-player co-op, it's okay. It was definitely more fun. I liked, the teamwork and stuff that we had to do together. And that did help it, at least an extra point in value. So 6 out of 10. But, my wife and I didn't do too much of the extra side content. There's little side activities that you can do in there. We did some of them here and there, but not a lot. We mostly stuck to the main story. We got Leo's ending. You can get two different endings depending on certain things that happen at the end that I'm not going to spoil. But we watched Vincent's ending on YouTube after. But yeah, my wife and I were talking about it, and she was bringing up some things that were true. That there's a lot of stuff about the gameplay in this game that's just, it's okay, it's generic, it's a lot of menial tasks, but like other stuff, there's stealth, there's shooting, there's driving, but like we've seen it in a lot of games before. It's just that having it two-player co-op does help it out a bit, but she thought it was pretty much just okay like I did, so we both pretty much agree. Maybe she can do a review herself and give her exact thoughts on it. But yeah, this game, it's made by the same people that later did, a few years later, It Takes Two. And my wife and I played that game a few years ago, and that game is phenomenal. I gave it a 9.5 in my review. That game was great. The platforming was super imaginative. That game focused more on platforming, as opposed to this one's more stealth and quick time events, and later on duck and cover shooting. Not as interesting as the inventive platforming that we saw in It Takes Two. And It Takes Two takes a much more lighthearted, comical tone with a lot of levity for a serious subject matter. It was a married couple getting divorced, and it was very heartwarming. It was a great game, very original story. This one, like I said, it's like every other prison movie and caper movie you've ever seen. But It Takes Two, that did something really original with the story, and definitely had a more upbeat tone about it while still dealing with a serious subject matter. But, different games, but it is from the same company. And this was just, a good, okay, promising start to what the company would do later with It Takes Two. So, but yeah, I just had to mention that. Now, eventually, me and my wife are going to have to play Split Fiction. That's their third game, I believe, Hazel Lights, that they've made. And that one is supposed to be good. I'm sure my wife and I will play it eventually in the next year or so. But, yeah, anyway, so those are my thoughts on A Way Out. 6 out of 10, and have a good night.